Alright, in my last video I went ahead and outlined DDD, and in this video I want to talk a little bit about why it's such a big deal. Um, this particular issue probably has other names, other acronyms, all kinds of different ways it's been talked about. After all, we're not really that unique. Generally speaking, as human beings, we tend to go through a lot of the same stuff over and over again. And just because something is unpopular or untalked about as much in times before or times after doesn't mean that it isn't continuing to happen. And there will almost always be some documentation of this and whatnot. So this term of DDD, it is important to give it a name so that people know what you're talking about, what you're referencing. But it's not probably a new concept the way that I'm talking about it being. It is a sort of new concept to me, though I've been living with it for forever and know a bunch of people who have also been living with it. Part of the reason why it's important to give it a name also is to give it the distinction of separation as well as designated like place to exist in. And I'll give you an example of this. There is a disorder called Asperger's syndrome, and it's viewed as a sort of mild autism. It's a high-functioning autism is actually what it's one of its nicknames. And this was basically a discovery made many years ago, decades ago, in fact, where they were having trouble communicating. They were having trouble understanding the autistic spectrum because they just were not getting any feedback from the people on the autistic spectrum. But then this one scientist discovered a group of people who were essentially sharing many qualities with people on the autistic spectrum, but were still able to function and interact. And this became known as Asperger's syndrome. That being said, that actually opened the door for a lot of insights into autism. A lot of what we understand of autism nowadays is due to the insights derived from that group and focusing on advancing our understanding through that group. Nowadays, it's considered all just autism, which in a lot of ways is, it is not good for both groups in a lot of ways, because for the people who are on the autistic spectrum that are more severely afflicted, they cannot be they cannot be seen as more severely afflicted. And it's kind of like when you're having a lot of trouble with depression, but other people struggle with depression too, so they go, oh well, that's not a big deal, but it is, because you're actually going through a lot more than most people do. But you can't get people to realize that, to understand that or acknowledge that, because everyone thinks it's all the same. Simultaneously, you have people with Asperger's that are being grouped in with a bunch of people that may not have the ability to function. And then the worldview surrounding them becomes that they are dysfunctional in a way that they can't be trusted. It creates a lot of confusion there. It also limits the distinction between the two groups for whatever kind of differences might emerge from the two, and dishonors the fact that they came from that our understanding came from uh, the differences between them, and that this means that we have essentially, in order to become more politically correct, actually done harm to both groups. This is why DDD is a really important distinction, is because whenever you have an umbrella term like autism, and everything has to fall under that has anything to do with that, but there's no distinctive qualification after that, then you end up with a lot of people not able to live their lives or get the help that they need, because it's kind of like treating a really aggressive infection with a broad spectrum antibiotic. Or like for the people who don't know as much about medical or whatever, it's like trying to use a giant sledgehammer to put a nail in a wall. You're trying to put up a painting or a picture, and you're using a sledgehammer to try to put in that nail. Oh, or attack, worse. And it just there are so many better ways to handle that situation, so many better tools you could be using. As it stands, you're more likely to hurt yourself, scar your wall, lose the nail and have to go down for it over and over again. There are just so many things that could go wrong with that approach. So, we have these more distinctive classifications in order to establish how to more directly, less violently, or abrasively, and perhaps even less invasively, treat these conditions that are extremely detrimental, that have been allowed to progress to unimaginably difficult levels to treat. And I believe that the concept of DDD allows us to take multiple disorders that we have put various people under, and treat an underlying condition in many of them that they share between all these different places that they've been put. According to, other various symptoms, or in some cases even just time. So like you have things like borderline personality disorder is a personality disorder, and personality disorders are not allowed to be, a person is not allowed to be diagnosed with personality disorder via diagnostic criteria until they are an adult. But every psychological or every good psychologist will tell you that the years you spend as a child and are the most impactful to the way you develop and the way that you live out the rest of your life. And it's part of the reason why most psychologists will choose to start with a family history, is they're trying to figure out what impact that family might have had on you in order to figure out which past to explore, what's most likely to have broken in and caused these breaks from when you were that young. But when you can't diagnose someone with the proper diagnosis until they're an adult, then that means that you have 18 years of bad treatment. You have bad treatments, and you have a person who has had a serious affliction that has been unaddressed or addressed solely by them, probably getting worse and worse and worse with every passing year. And now it's a minefield. It's Death Valley. So, DDD would also essentially allow people to address disorders like personality disorders or PTSD or other symptoms that may be excluded due to age, that should not be excluded due to age. Because you have cases such as my own, where I actually started experiencing severe symptoms at the age of 4. I mean, these cases are out there. There are actually a lot of them. So, in a nutshell, that's one of the reasons why I feel like it's really important to give this disorder a name and start to talk about it more. But anyway, I will go ahead and end this video now, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.